They have been unhappy for some time. There has been a civil war for some time, even though many parts of the institution would like to play it down. It has now exploded in spectacular fashion out into the open. What is so fascinating to me is these two have a need to try and control their own narrative. So I had been working on the story, Julia, for 2 weeks. There had been numerous opportunities when I could have run it and I wasn't quite there. And put it this way, there were people close to Harry and Meghan that were certainly trying to stop me from running this story. But then as soon as we went public with it, Harry and Meghan had to have their say. They always want to set the narrative and the agenda themselves. Now, the problem is when you're talking about the monarchy and the royal family and an institution with the Queen at 93 years old at the head of it, she doesn't do things on a whim. She's not going to rush a statement like this. And I think there is now fury within the royal family, specifically from Prince Charles and Prince William, and also deep disappointment from the Queen, because you know what, Julia, she did a lot to make these two happy. You know, she gave them the house that they wanted at Windsor Castle. The public paid to renovate it to the tune of some £3 million, possibly more. We'll find out later in the year. They went on every royal tour they wanted to go on. So why on earth were they not just prepared to sit and wait until the Queen was happy with the situation, especially seeing, remember, it's still Prince Charles that's going to be funding them to the tune of many millions.
Well, this is it. They're talking about trying to become financially independent, and what they mean by that is not taking money from the sovereign grant, but that's only 5% of their income. And again, this is according to the royal websites, the actual official websites. 95% of their income does actually come from Prince Charles and from the Duchy of Cornwall. Of course, you know, that doesn't just happen out of nowhere. That is part of the, you know, the royal estate, effectively. Of course, he is independently wealthy, having inherited money from his mother, Diana. She got lots of money from her divorce settlement. And Meghan, of course, was a very successful actress, by all accounts, on $450,000 a year, playing a leading actress in the hit series Suits. So they do both have sort of money to live on anyway, but the lavish lifestyle they seem to expect to want to enjoy, perhaps that money would disappear quite quickly. Now, when they talk about sort of stepping back from being senior royals, he is only 6 in line to the throne now as a result of William's 3 children. This idea that they can be sort of half in, half out, will that mean that he will still remain a royal? He'll still be a prince, still be a duke, still be HRH, or would he be required to give some of those titles up?
Well, that is the big question, and I actually reported in my story in The Sun yesterday that one of the long-term options that is being discussed is seeing the couple relinquish their HRH title. Now, I would say, after the way that they've behaved over the past 24 hours, the chances of that happening has now significantly increased. But you can imagine, Julie, you know what Prince Harry and Meghan are like. They won't want to do that because, of course, if they were to relinquish those titles, they would have to bow to Prince William and Kate, for example. So, you know, there are a whole load of very complicated, complex issues here, and very much the future of the monarchy is at stake as well.
The most shocking thing is the way they've gone about it, the fact that the Queen wasn't consulted, that it's been done sort of on the fly. It was announced on Instagram. I mean, this is pretty remarkable. And the fact that the palace has said they're disappointed, I think, as you absolutely rightly said, you know, that is code for absolutely devastated, shocked, annoyed, and everything else. I think, I mean, there's a way in which this can be seen, in fact, as a positive, ultimately, for the monarchy and the royal family. I mean, Harry and Meghan have said they want to develop a progressive role within the institution. Now, many people would say, well, yeah, absolutely, that is what needs to happen. The monarchy does need to evolve, but it does need to stand on its own 2 feet, or at least certain members of the royal family need to stand on their own 2 feet, or at least make efforts to.
Oh, but you said that, but how can they? Well, whenever we've seen efforts to happen, I mean, you know, there's Prince Edward and his wife Sophie. She was in PR. He was, and Fergie, the Duchess of York, and he had his ardent television company. Actually, they're never going to be able to do a normal job and live a normal life while they're still members of the royal family, are they?
No, they're not, and they've not said that they will. I mean, first of all, their security is a huge cost that will be paid for by the taxpayer. I mean, I think this is sort of an example of sort of cakeism. They're basically saying they want to not be held accountable in the way that senior royals are, not have to conform to the expectations regarding, for example, the traditional media, not have to turn up, on the balcony and do all of those ceremonial things, but at the same time basically do their own thing, that they want to develop brand Sussex Royal. They want to engage with the media in their own way. So basically it's them saying, yes, okay, we'll work within the institution, but we're not going to be held accountable to conventions and, the rules. And I think the palace have already pushed back and said, these are complicated issues. In other words, well, they can say what they like, but the fact is they are senior royals, and this is going to take some time to disentangle and figure out exactly what's possible.
And the headline of The Sun today is Megxit, civil war as Harry and Meg quit the royals. Queen and Charles and Will's said to be furious. How significant and how serious is this decision? What do you think has prompted it?
I think it's very serious indeed. It's also almost equally sad. I think that it's prompted because Meghan cannot bear to be in a sort of second place, walk behind Kate, not be a senior royal. The nonsense about they've been sidelined because of the photograph which showed 4 heirs to the throne. Well, 3 heirs.
This was a photograph of a Christmas, and this is a strong tradition, isn't it? Of photographs of the line of succession.
But Harry's never going to be king, so it was done by a friend who knows nothing, who was probably, I'm almost certain, asked by Meghan to do this. It means they know nothing about the royals. What is extraordinary is that Harry hasn't stepped up and said, look, I agree with you, I'll come with you wherever you want to go, I will follow you anywhere. However, we've got to be respectful to my grandmother and to my father. There's none of that. It is so disrespectful, it is so rude. The palace is astonished, and they could have taken their time to do this quietly, but Meghan wants things now. I mean, it's a bit like a spoilt child.
Well, she's had, initially I thought a very positive press. There's lots of accusations that there's been bullying of her, and that's been racism in the British media, and they've been unfairly attacked, and all these unfair stories, and delving into her past life, obviously her relationship with her father. Look, I wouldn't wish being a royal on anyone. I think it's a terrible life to be born into, a terrible life to marry into. But is it fair to say that you think she did know what she was marrying into, but actually a celebrity and getting to choose your PR and your coverage and when you are on camera, when you're not, is very, very different from a royal life, and she really had no idea what she was getting herself into.
Well, in the conversations I had with Harry, he told me that he had very, very long conversations with her, explaining exactly what was required of him, what was required of her, how awful it would be, the press, everything like that, because he was absolutely determined that she would know what she was letting herself in for. Whether she didn't hear because she was so in love with him, we don't know. These are private issues. But the other thing he had told me is that he can't bear being thought of as a celebrity. He said there's a narrow line between being a celebrity and being a royal, but he absolutely is a royal. A royal has a sense of duty, knows what is expected of them, is there to support the Queen. The celebrity, as you say, choose their own PRs and arrive at wonderful first nights and look gorgeous and aren't there criticised day and night. I think the criticism is very, very hard to do, but I do think that she hasn't understood the difference at all. I don't think she's necessarily meant not to, but I don't think she's got it.
No, indeed. And just like we had a string of stories about rifts with Prince William and Kate, obviously with whom Harry has obviously had a very good relationship before. He used to live with them when they were a newly married couple. But also rifts with the other members of the royal family. She's gone through staff at a rate of knots, which suggests a certain difficulty with unworking it. But as you say, if your conversations before your biography of Prince Harry, that with Prince Harry, that he had made it clear to her that you're joining the firm and this is what's expected and this is what life's going to be like. There was that expectation doing that. Now, my sympathies are with them also in the sense that, look, it wasn't what they thought it was going to be. People have problems with their in-laws. Lots of us have gone through that. And actually, if they want to lead a different life, fair dues, they should be free to do so. They shouldn't be princes. But is this half in, half out? Keep the Duke title, keep the HRH, keep a load of the money from the Duchy of Cornwall, keep basically trade on the royal name. I don't know, try and do a Kim Kardashian style Instagram following. Like, is that doable? Be half in,
Well,
half
I
out
think
the
it'll be
royals?
very, very hard. I mean, there's all sorts of expenses. They have to have guards, protection officers, which costs at least £600,000 a year. I know they'll be rich, but these are very difficult. And saying in North America, if they're in America, then they're not entitled to have these protection officers. If they're in Canada, they are, because that's in the Commonwealth. There's loads of things like that. But you can't, I don't know what she means, how you can be in North America and continue, and to quote them, to honour our duty to the Queen, Commonwealth and patronages. It's nonsense. You can't be in two places at the same time. And to do that to your to the Queen, your grandmother, is just astonishing. Not to let her know, not to have sufficient respect for her and her age and her sense of duty.
Well, also at a time we know that Prince Philip is he's a very elderly man now.
Yes,
we know he's been in and out of
he is.
hospital. There are lots of concerns about his health and
course.
and how. So we do see this at a time that the grandmother. But they could perhaps have waited a few months. I
Absolutely,
suppose.
that's what I said. What's the rush? But I think Harry said it before the wedding. What Meghan wants, Meghan gets, and Meghan is a sort of driving force. She's got amazing ideas, and she talks well in public, and she's full of dynamic energy. However, sometimes you, at the age of 38, you have to sort of look at yourself and say, I want to go tomorrow, but I don't want to create tension in the royal family.
Is there also an element, though, where, I mean, that she is a woman of her own, with her own mind. She was independently, she came from nothing. She earned her money herself. She's a very successful actress. She's got her own mind. She's got her own political views. And the job of being a royal wife is to stay skinny, have kids, and shut the hell up. And she was not prepared to do that.
No, I sympathise with her for that, but she was quite savvy. She's very intelligent. She could see what was involved, or maybe they shouldn't have got married so quickly. They should have let the relationship go a bit longer. But everything's got to be in a rush. But what worries me, I think very, very highly of Harry. He's charismatic. He's damaged. He's a wonderful mix of characters. But what's he going to do? Is he just going to follow her around? I mean, when she says earn her own money, does she mean she's going back to acting? And what will he do? He's not qualified to do anything very much.
Well, he was in the military, of course, but again, that's not possible.
Well, he can't be in the military, and he doesn't want to work in an office. He's told me that too, that he can't bear sitting in front of a computer.
I mean, he's done some fantastic.
Man.
No, indeed, he's done some fantastic work at the Invictus Games. He's really sort of rehabilitated himself after sort of youthful indiscretions. Again, most of us don't have cameras on us when we're getting up to things as a young man. But what do you make of the idea that they're going to be pushing this Instagram lifestyle? Perhaps social media endorsers Kardashian style. I mean, that would just be beyond tacky.
It suits Meghan very well. It's all part of her celebrity life, and I think Harry will do whatever Meghan tells him to do. But I think he will be very lonely. I mean, she's distanced him from his friends. His distance now from William. The little cousins won't meet. He won't have the family set up to really help him. And he is a damaged person, and he needs sort of being cared for in a way. And to think that the grass is greener out there is not going to work, because he will always be famous.
Do you think it's going to be possible for a major institution like our royal family to have members who are half in, half out, like Prince Harry and Meghan apparently appear to want to be?
Well, this may disappoint you, but I'm not going to comment on the internal affairs of the royal family. The Buckingham Palace, as you know, put out a statement last night which alluded to what you've just described, that this is an unusual development and raises a range of complicated questions which they will need to work through. If they need the support and the advice of the government, then obviously we will help them in doing that. But this really primarily is a matter for Her Majesty the Queen, for the Sussexes themselves and the royal household, and they will need to work through how these new arrangements can sit comfortably with the institution as we know it of the royal family.
And there's been a lot of claims, direct claims made sometimes by Prince Harry and Meghan, and certainly their friends and sources close to them, claim that they've been subject of bullying by the British media, subject to racism by the British media in terms of the coverage of Meghan as a mixed-race woman. Do you agree that they have suffered bullying and racism in this country?
Well, look, anyone in public life has to contend with the pressures of media attention, and I don't think any of us can really understand quite how intense that would be for a young couple with a child in the level of public attention that they receive as some of the most famous people in the world today. So I do have sympathy with them. But they have to make choices now which are right for them and for their own futures. And
no, but do you think
that's what's behind this statement?
Has British media coverage of this royal couple, as far as you've seen it, do you think it has been exhibiting bullying and racism?
Well, that's not my impression, but I'm not on the sharp end of living their lives. The British media is a very vibrant one, which holds people to account, politicians in particular, and I'm sure members of the royal family find that difficult at times. But then the media in many other parts of the world is very intense as well, and it certainly is in the United States as well. So, but look, the Sussex are a young couple in clearly going through a difficult period under intense media scrutiny. They have to make the right decision for them, and then Her Majesty the Queen and the royal family have to work to decide how that fits in with the institution of the monarchy. And of course, we will continue to support the Queen, who is a fantastic head of state, the Prince of Wales, and the institution, so it can continue to move forwards.
They say they want to, carve out a progressive new role within the organisation. I don't advise you to try to turn up to work today, or not turn up to work today, saying you're carving out a progressive new role within the organisation, because you may get short shrift from your boss. But will they be staying on the royal payroll? Will taxpayers still be paying for them? Well, let's talk about all of this with the Sun's royal photographer, Arthur Edwards. Good morning to you, Arthur.
Morning, Julia.
Good morning. Now, look, you are not only a lifelong monarchist, you're someone who's spent your life working with the royals, and indeed you've been photographing Harry since the first day he was presented to the public. The family. Well, what are your reactions to this decision of Prince Harry to step back as a senior royal?
Well, I think it's it's one step. I mean, it's like when they get divorced, they say we're separating, but there's no talk of divorce, and then they get divorced. And I think this is either he's going to step back and he either gets out of it completely or he comes back. I hope he comes back, because I think of all the royals, Harry is just one of the best. And working with him over the years, he's been a joy to work with, and I certainly will miss him.
Well, indeed, I mean, from what I've heard from people who have to work in those circles, sources that actually, he really is regarded as a good bloke. He served in the military. He did some fantastic work he's done setting up the Invictus Games, and he really, he had a little bit of a tearaway teenagers and early 20s, but actually really turned it around and been a very popular figure. And there was a lot of talk when he married or announced his engagement to Meghan Markle that this was the new, a new generation of royals, and this was turning around the royal family. Huge popularity for the royal family, bringing it into the 21st century, a mixed race wife, and things like that. It was a modern 21st century look for the royal family. It now appears that there isn't a place for for Harry and Meghan in the firm as it's currently constituted. Does this, though, make the firm, as Diana used to call it, does it make the firm look bad that there isn't a place for this new, perhaps rather too woke generation of royals?
I don't agree. I think there is a big place for Harry and Meghan in, and you only see by the coverage they get. Every engagement they do is covered fully and oversubscribed by the media to go to them. So I don't believe that. And on their tours, they have to charter a plane for the press. It's so many turn up. So that's not true. I think Harry and Meghan have just... I think Harry was a super prince, and I think when he married Meghan, he's changed completely, and I don't know why.
He does. He does appear to be. Look, I don't know him. I've never met him. I never will meet him. But he does appear from the outside to be a shadow of his former self.
Well, absolutely. I mean, at the end of a royal tour, when you did it with Harry, I remember going to Colorado Springs at the start of the Warrior Games, and at the end of the tour, we all went to the pub. The same in Barbados. We didn't go to the pub. We went to Sandals, and we all had a drink together, and he paid the bill. And it was good fun. And if he had a problem with you, he would tell you. He said, "I didn't like the way you did that, or I didn't like that," and he would do it. But now, at the end of the last tour, he announced he was going to sue a newspaper, and the whole of the mood of the tour went from great to disappointment.
What do you make of the allegations that have been made that they've been sort of victims of bullying and racism by the British media, and this decision to basically refuse royal media rotas? Now, this is the system where basically all the major media newspapers, radio and television are on a rota where they get access to these royal trips and royal events, but they're just going to basically pick whoever they want to cover their media events now. What do you make of those allegations and their decision and how to deal with it?
Well, what will happen is people won't bother. I mean, if you're not, I mean, newspapers just won't cover the stuff. I mean, they will probably disappear. I mean, look, the thing is, Harry's always worried that he was going to end up like Prince Andrew, the spare, and that when Prince Charles had children, of course, he realised he wasn't much to do. But there was a job for Harry to do. That's to support his brother. But he's fallen out with his brother. It seems that Meghan's fallen out with Catherine. And so the whole thing looks, just a mess. Now, that wasn't like that before. It was Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and Prince Harry. They had the charities together. They went on TV highlighting mental health in young people together. They did everything together. And suddenly along comes Miss Markle, and the whole thing changes. Now, he's no longer talking to his brother. He can't even be bothered to go and tell the Queen what he's going to do. I suggest he gets on a plane today and goes and sees the Queen and his father and tell him what his plans are, because that was almost insulting, in my view, to the
I have to say,
lovely Queen.
Extraordinary anger about that online. Do you think this is look, we're not inside that marriage, and no one apart from the two people involved in it is, but do you give this relationship the long haul? Because I have to say, they don't strike me as being a happy couple.
Well, the thing is, Julia, I think Harry's doing this to please Meghan, and I think he realised he's obviously crazy about her and he's madly in love with her, and I think he'll do anything to please her, and I think this is her plan, not his. I don't think. I mean, there's only so many Oprah Winfrey shows you can do, Harry, and there's only so much. He'll miss the people here. He'll miss the British people. Now he's going to come back and dip in and out. Well, I don't think you can do that. You're either here or you're overseas. You can't just flip backwards and forwards when it suits you. And I think he needs some real strong advice and some strong talk.
Well, this is it, and it does appear that she's gone through an awful lot of stuff. Now, I mean, I remember talking to a royal correspondent a few months ago about this, saying, look, all this coverage of Meghan, all this stuff about these riffs and all the claims that she's difficult. Is this just some anti? And I mean, I thought, frankly, it was anti-American divorcee actress rather than the claims that it's about the colour of her skin or her mother's skin. I have to say, I never thought that was ever an issue. I would say quite the opposite, actually. But by all accounts, she is working her way through staff at a rate of knots and is a rather difficult person. But is a lot of this down to personalities, or is a lot of this down to people who just simply don't understand the job? We spoke to Angela Levin, biographer of Prince Harry, earlier in the show, and she was saying, she spoke to Prince Harry about their relationship, and he said to her that he had spoken at great length with Meghan before they got engaged, about what being a member of the royal family would entail. He wanted her to be forewarned about how difficult it was. It's not like being a celebrity; you don't get to pick and choose. And yet she was forewarned and forearmed, but clearly didn't really realise what it entailed.
Well, I think she does it what she wants. I think it's, I think someone said what Meghan gets. What Meghan wants. I mean, the way they handled the birth of their child was appalling. I mean, the baby was almost teething before we learned it was born.
Given that we're going to pay for the child, I suppose we is that part of the deal? Look, we'll pay for your massive big house to be done, but we get to see pictures of your kid. Most people, I mean, my God, I've bored everyone silly with pictures of my kid within hours.
Yeah, of course, and the way that the media here were treated like that, certainly the fact that this we thought of a new prince in the family. But then when they didn't give it a royal title, I suspected something was up then.
Oh, you thought? Well, in terms of their future then, I mean, there's talk about stepping back. Now, again, they'd still be taking money from the Duchy of Cornwall, which, of course, is still the royal prerogative. Prince Harry, independently wealthy himself, inheritance from his mother, and Meghan, of course, her earnings over the years as an actress in Suits. But if they did go abroad and work in Canada and base themselves there, there's lots of talk that she's hired social media experts and the like, and talk of becoming big on Instagram and running their charities. But are we genuinely talking about a member of the royal family keeping his titles as Prince and HRH and the like, while effectively being a posh version of the Kardashians?
Yeah, I don't think the Queen would take his HRH title away from him at all. I think the Queen and Harry get on brilliantly, and of course, his father would never do that. He would. He loves that boy. Tremendously. And in fact, I don't think he's angry with Harry. I think he's sad because of what's happening and the fact that he's not been able to advise him or not been sought for advice. So, but I think when you think the way Harry changed after he got married, that was unbelievable. It was like from the greatest person to go and work with to the most miserable. It just seemed to be... It just seems to be one person responsible, and that's Meghan. You can't look anywhere else.